Good morning, everybody. This is Football Talk. And we are moving into week 6, coming off that bye week. And obviously coming off a huge game against the Giants where they put up some Madden numbers on defense that realistically probably won't be matched again this season. But they were fun to watch for sure. Our show's coming to you by Archer Ducts. It is a duct cleaning company here in the Seattle area. If you mention this show, you get 10% off. The last time you have had your ducts cleaned or your dryer duct cleaned, definitely check them out. You can book right through their Facebook fan page at Archer Ducts. All right, so here we go. We got an interesting matchup this week going against a Bengals team that definitely beat up on the Cardinals last week. And obviously we don't need to go over what we did against the Giants. That was before the bye week. And they were just some numbers that aren't realistic to keep going. But the one thing that I was hoping to get more healthy guys out of this bye week, especially being an early bye week. You're really hoping to see those numbers drop. And unfortunately, there really wasn't as much. There wasn't as many guys getting healthy as I was really hoping there would be. Hey, thanks for stopping through. It's, coming off the bye. I was hoping that maybe Lucas would make it back. Lucas is still out. Cross is back, although still a little bit banged up. Our guard, Damian Lewis, is doubtful for today. Cornerbacks, Kobe Bryant and Artie Burns are both ruled out. So there's some of that. DK still has some rib injuries from, that previous game. So he didn't end up practicing most of this week. He had a limited practice on Friday. So he's listed as questionable. I bet he plays, but who knows how effective he'll be depending on how sore he is. Jamal Adams was limited and all week. So we'll see if he is eligible. They are still saying that he is questionable. So, anybody that on the injury report usually has a questionable tag to him. So hopefully we see Jamal out there, though. We want to see more than a couple of plays from him. We'll have to wait and see on that. A huge bonus is Jaron Reed and Draymond Jones were full goes all week. So although there's still a questionable tag, they should be ready to rock for today against the Bengals. This is a little bit concerning. I knew Drew Lock got kind of beat up in that last game with the ankle, and it looks like he is not only questionable today, but they brought back Holton Allers, who was with them through the preseason. So it makes you think that ankle injury might be a little bit more severe than we thought. Now, I don't think it's, anything that's going to keep him off the field necessarily, but bringing in that third quarterback makes you think that there is a very real chance that if he does get on there, he may not make it through the game. So they do bring back that third string quarterback, which, he actually looked pretty good through the preseason. So it was a good guy to bring back. Obviously some decision-making things, threw a pick in the end zone in the last preseason game, I think is kind of actually where he ended up getting let go. But, overall, he had pretty good command of the offense. So if for whatever reason Geno, goes down, he is still dealing, I believe, with a knee injury. And, of course, Drew with the ankle. So having that third option is definitely necessary. Again, it's unfortunate that they didn't get a little bit better at getting guys healthy over this bye week, because since it was an early one, you don't really have another one. They kind of get like a half bye week at the beginning of December because they have a Thursday night game against the Cowboys, and then they, go back to a Sunday game after that. So they end up with a little bit of time to try and get people right towards, later in the season. But, I was definitely hoping to see more of these guys drop off this injury list. As of this morning, I think there's still 11 guys on that list. All right, so we're going to do a couple of the questions here. What's the over-under on Adams playing the entire game? Uh, man. So I don't like the spirit of this question, only because, well, at the end of the day, you're probably not wrong. But I do think that he should be able to make it through a whole game. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but I'm going to go with Adams makes it through an entire game today. And they're going to need him because Burrow does seem like he's moving a little bit better than he was. Still favoring that leg, but a little bit better. What's happening, Mitch? Thanks for dropping by. Yeah, so I would look for him to have an impact. I mean, he did do some work. I mean, I get that he was only in for 9 plays, against the against the Giants, but I mean, he had 2 tackles, 1 for loss. So I mean, it's not like he wasn't out there doing what he does. But we'll see. Do I think the trade rumors for Noah Fant are true? I hope not. So I understand that this is the last year of his contract. So if they were going to try and trade him to get something for him, they don't use him a ton when you look at the stat sheet. But it would be misguided to get rid of any of their tight ends because their offensive line has been so beat up. They've been running a lot of 3 tight end sets. So I don't know why you would get rid of one of your guys that is getting protection for Geno Smith and helping create rushing lanes for our running backs. Because, again, Abraham Lucas is out. He was on IR. We don't have a defined timeline for him coming back. Cross is going to be back this week, but we don't know how good he's going to play. The quality of the offensive tackles after those 2 guys was clearly a big drop, which is why they started running a lot of 13 personnel, keeping 2 tight ends in the backfield or, close in to, into blocking. So they very well could be true, right? I mean, they could probably still get something for him. He's going to require quite a bit of money next year. They don't really use him like the pass catching, tight end that he can be. So, I mean, if they don't trade him, then they'll get nothing for him because they probably won't be able to pay him. But when it comes to looking at what they're using those tight ends for this season, man, they should probably keep them. Frank Clark was just released from the Broncos. Do you think the Hawks should go get him? I mean, I don't think they could afford him. I don't know what he wants, but I would bet money that he just goes back to the Chiefs, and that would be a good pickup for the Chiefs, right? Like they could use him back. Frank Clark is, quite the athlete, so I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibilities. But I don't know how you get that deal done. I haven't heard him sign with the Chiefs yet. So, I mean, he's still floating around out there. But as far as I know, he was released overall. This one I got a couple of times through the week. Do I think if the Broncos try and move on from Wilson, the Hawks try and bring him back? No. The way that he forced his way out, I think, left a bad taste in the mouth of all the regime that is still there. If the GM and the coach were to have changed at the same time, there's a chance, right? But because Pete and John are still there, I can't imagine that they bring Wilson back. Now, obviously, I don't think that the Broncos could do that anyway. The dead cap would be just enormous. Now, that organization has some stuff to work out because his relationship with Sean Payton seems to be a problem. If you watch the NFC show that we just wrapped up, we talked about that a little bit more. But I really don't foresee a scenario where Seattle goes and gets Wilson to come back. One, because it wouldn't make any sense for the Broncos, and if they did, then what has already been talked about being the worst trade in NFL history then becomes unequivocally the worst trade in NFL history, because at that point you would have given up all those picks and then given them the player back too. I just don't see a scenario where that can happen. But it would be funny. It would be funny to watch. So yeah. All right. So are you going to post a list of all of the sports bars? Yes. So it's a work in progress. So the sports bar series that I'm doing has been for Thursday nights, and we do have some that are coming up. It's funny. It's been an interesting dynamic to try and get those locked in. I really thought that was going to be a little bit easier because we're not really doing anything that requires anything from the bars themselves. We're not asking for discounts or anything like that. So I'm a little bit surprised at kind of some of the challenges we've run into along the way here, getting some of them on board. But at the end of the day, I do try and post where we're going to be. So that one's a work in progress. I'm hoping next season of the Sports Bar series will be far more fluid than this one. But we're working through kinks of that show. It has been a lot of fun though. Research is always good, right? Because I have to go check out the sports bar and watch a game and drink some beer. So it's not a bad scenario. And I do try and make sure that everyone knows where we're going to be. So on the, let's see, what is it? Let me check. Don't want to say the wrong place. Okay, so if you are on the east side on the 26th, we'll be at the Three Lions Pub on the Ridge for the Bucks and the Bills. So that should be a fun game to watch. Looking forward to that one. So yeah, that'll be October 26th. So yeah, in Redmond Ridge. So if you happen to be in the area, come on out to that. We do have a location coming up in Bothell. We got one coming up in Woodinville. So I mean, there are some places that you'll be able to catch up with us, watch a game, drink some beer, have some fun on a Thursday night football. So yes, in a manner of speaking, I am publishing a list, sort of. If you don't follow me on Facebook, definitely do, because that's where those events are being posted. So that's kind of how that's going down. All right, so let's get into a little bit of this Bengals game. Again, not a lot to talk about that Giants game. We did it in the last episode, and there wasn't a lot that I felt like we could really take from that game into this next game. The Giants team really did nothing well. I don't see a scenario where this Hawks defense ends up with 11 sacks again. I don't see anything like that. But I do think they fare way better against the Bengals than the Cardinals did last week. The Cardinals really got beat up on in all three phases of the game. I don't see the Bengals being able to do that against this Seattle team. This defense is getting significantly better as the year goes on. One thing that is, a huge question is whether or not they're going to be able to stop the run, because their last two opponents didn't really have any semblance of a run game. So it allowed our defense to play a little bit different than, they will be able to in this one. And obviously the quality of the quarterback is significantly better this week than it was in the last couple of weeks. That being said, Burrow is still kind of hampered on that leg. And, he's taking most of his snaps from the shotgun. So clearly he's not able to move around and pivot quite the same way he can when he's fully healthy. And against this defense, the front seven has been able to get into the backfield and create some pressures. So, if they can get Burrow off his spot, if he has some soreness in that leg still, they'll have a hard time driving the ball. It'll create some passes that aren't necessarily perfectly on target. It'll take some speed off the ball. And so then all of a sudden guys, like Woolen and Witherspoon and Diggs, they can make an impact on that back end by either, defensing passes or potentially interceptions. And of course, if Jamal Adams can, stay healthy through this game, he'll absolutely be able to get in the backfield. He's a fast enough athlete that he can track down Burrow. So there's a lot of things I'm looking for on the defensive side of the ball. We know what we can do on the offense. This offense can absolutely score. So as long as you have, as long as they don't let, the Bengals get away from them, I don't know that this team is really built to track a team down. they can keep pace, they can play with a lead. I don't know how well they'd be able to do from very far behind, especially because in that scenario, you start to have to get away from your run game. This team is all about the run. So, that's probably the biggest thing is I want to see some not necessarily, they don't necessarily have to be 3 and outs, but I want to see this defense shut Joe Burrow down early. I know there's been some talking between Jamar Chase and our secondary, so that's going to be a fun battle to watch as well. Now, Chase obviously had a career day last week as it was a franchise day, as Jason pointed out, where it was the best receiving, statistical receiving day for a receiver on the Bengals. So, at the end of the day, as long as they don't allow that stuff to happen, Jamar Chase is going to eat, right? Like he's going to get passes. I look at his stat line. He's probably going to have somewhere between 75 and 80 yards and a touchdown would be my guess for Jamar Chase. So I thought T. Higgins was out, but what I was just seeing is he looks to be questionable, but he was a full practice on Friday. So that bodes itself well for him to be on the field. That might take away a little bit of the double team ability you might have been able to do on Chase. But, obviously the Hawks are going to have whatever scheme it is they're dialing up for them. But honestly, that's the biggest thing for me is know what the offense can do. We know Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet will be able to run for a buck. We know that DK and Lockett and JSN are going to be able to create some separation, get open. Obviously, we have Disley and Fant. They're going to be able to do, things. So the offense isn't where I worry. It's whether or not they can tighten up the middle of the field because, again, the last 2 games, they haven't played teams that have really tested that area. But that's where this team is weak. So if the improvement is actually improvement and not just indicative of the fact that there was teams that couldn't target those areas of the field effectively, that's the biggest takeaway on my end there. This is a game that both teams absolutely need. So the Bengals need it to be able to stay alive in that division. And of course, the Hawks need it to be able to try and keep pace with the Niners because the Niners are absolutely going to go and walk through Cleveland today. There's no Deshaun. So that Niners team, I think the line was 7 points. I don't see a reason they would lose, where they wouldn't win by more than 7 points, especially no Deshaun. You got PJ Walker getting the start. I would bet that 49ers defense ends up getting at least a pick, maybe a pick 6. If nothing else, create some good field position advantages. So, yeah, I don't. I have a hard time seeing Seattle be able to catch the Niners, but as long as they can kind of keep pace, that'll give them a wild card spot. Obviously, the Niners are playing like the best team in football currently. Lots of football left, though, so let's not anoint them as the champs yet. But they definitely have their work cut out for them. I actually really look forward to these Niners games. I don't necessarily love that you play them twice in 3 weeks, but I do think that those are going to be some very fun games to watch. And I think that, my initial pick, so going into the season, I had the Hawks at 10-7, and I had them losing to the Cowboys. And how I've seen this Cowboys team come up short, I actually don't think that'll be the case. I'm actually thinking it will probably end up being a win. I think we still end up at 10-7. Based on how the Niners are playing, they may lose to them twice. I had them as a split. So my wins may have shuffled a little bit, but the total is still the same. So I think they still make it to the playoffs as a 6th or 7th seed. And, as it sits right now, that you would be playing you'd either be playing the Lions or the Eagles, most likely. So yeah, no, it's I don't know. The NFC is really starting to kind of take some shape. It's one of the things that's nice now that we're roughly about a third of the way into the year. You're starting to see who the real teams are, and which teams are already starting to think of next year. It's the bottom is deeper than I thought it would be, though. I didn't think there was going to be so many bad teams. Usually there's a little bit better parity in the league. So there's a lot more, there's a still completely defeated team, a few one-win teams. So yeah, I was expecting a little more parity than what we've seen, but that's the NFL, right? Doesn't always work out to be that way. So yeah, that's basically what I'm looking at for this game. Also, if you are playing Pick'em with us, be sure to check out our Pick'em show. It's every Thursday morning. And of course, watch our show right here on YouTube at Football-Talk or on the Let's Talk Sports Network. Going through a quick one today. Hope you enjoy the rest of football. Of course, we got the game coming up against the Bengals. I'm excited to see that. So let's pop our jerseys on. Have a great day, everybody.